Hey
All
guys, I
right.
don't know if you can hear me.
Oh, hey, Chris. Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday, November 13th. It's a monthly meeting of the school building committee. We're gonna do our presentation slightly out of our order. Mike, do you want to jump in and see
Yep.
where Chris wants to jump in?
Yeah, so I just want to preface the conversation and then we can get started. I'll hand it over to Chris. Um, so we have a few things to talk about tonight. Obviously, we're going to go through a little bit of how the community forum went, talk about the next one. I have a somewhat of an update from the MSBA. It's obviously typical, not concrete, not black and white. There's a lot of gray, but I'll update you on that. Chris is going to run through what we've been going back and forth and working with Chris on is comparing the space summary templates and really starting to evaluate the options programmatically. So we're going to run through that and we'll put that first actually. And then subsequent to that, I would just like to have a quick conversation about schedule and moving forward before we adjourn for the evening. So with that, Chris, do you want me to just put up the comparison on screen?
Yeah, can you do that?
Yep, give me one
Cool.
second. And
So while he's doing that, I appreciate you guys accommodating the out of order request. I'm actually at Ed Spaces conference in Houston and trying to learn more about how to do Ed Spaces right. So I appreciate you affording me the opportunity to go first. Um,
You just want to get back to the barbecue out there. I know.
yeah, well, that's later, but right now I walked out of one of the sessions, so. All right, so what's on the screen here is a boiled down comparison of the space summaries. You'll notice on the, well, let me back up. The space summaries, you've seen us talk about these a couple of times, and what it is an MSBA document. It's a big long spreadsheet, and it basically talks about the amount of square footage in each space that's represented in the building. And that space summary um, always follows the educational program. So we usually back into the space summary from the educational program and we say all of the documents are talking about these kinds of spaces, and then we document that in the space summary, and then we go and design options. Um, and we did that through the PDP phase on this project. And then when we started to rethink and revamp the PSR process back in June, we went more to like a basic, like what in the existing building do we need to do for like the 10-year maintenance plan? And you all know how we got to the current round of options, but it was more of a backdoor approach to the space summary than the front door approach, which is where we do space summary first and then build options out. And so what Vertex and TAP A did over the last couple weeks is we went back to each of the options, filled in an individual space summary for each of those options so that we could identify in a data perspective what's actually happening between them. And Jeff keeps referring to it as like the value add proposition for each project. And so what we've done is gone through and put these in an easier to grab method as opposed to putting up a bunch of those giant spreadsheets and having you try to decipher the difference between them. Our team was trying to, the Vertex TAP A team was trying to whittle it down into the differences. And so you see the options running across the top, the R's and then the ARs and then the new. And then just below that are the thumbnails that remind you of the actual images of like so what we're trying to do is give you a visual thumbnail for each of the options too. So when you see them, you can kind of identify with them. When you do the renovations, that's a little bit harder because the footprint is kind of always the same. But nonetheless, those should ring a bell to some degree. And then the big thing here is on the left. On the left, there's a category that says it's option cell B9, and it says identified MSBA statement of interest needs not met. And so probably after I jump off the call, Mike's going to give you an update on the MSBA conversations, and that'll link back to this row that one of the big drivers of the MSBA's ability to reimburse is based on meeting the initial deficiencies identified in the the statement of interest, which is a document that unfortunately we can't go back and edit. We can't go back and modify. It is what got you into the core program. And so they're looking for options that are going to solve the identified needs within the space summary.
And Chris, can I just jump in for 1 minute? So basically what you're saying is that, you know, we went to the MSBA and said, hey, we don't have enough room for the students. That was the initial ask that we asked for. And what you're saying is that some of these items here, some of the options here, you've identified as not meeting that, meaning that the MSBA would not participate in reimbursement on that, correct?
Yeah, and I think that's where Mike's going to talk to you in a minute.
Yep.
And there's a lot of gray in that conversation, but it's basically painting the picture to say, we want to be able to tell the MSBA, look, you invited Millis into the grant program based on an SOI, a statement of interest, which identifies your needs. And we're telling you how each of these projects or each of these concept options respond to the statement of interest, but also how it responds to the educational program. The big difference between the educational program and the statement of interest is that we can actually edit the educational program to match the option that you guys want to go with, but we can't go back and edit the statement of interest because that's just a done deal. So what we're trying to do on the comparison form here is let you know, and this is still in draft form. The two firms were working on this as late as today, going back and forth, and so you might see some edits to this over the next couple of weeks, and we're definitely going to be going over this more than just tonight. But the idea here is that we're trying to identify things in the statement of interest that might not be met with these options. And so you can see all of the renovation options have issues related to them in terms of overcrowding and other things related to the identified needs within the statement of interest. As you go further right on this document, you start to see that we're getting to the point where we can verify that we're actually addressing the statement of interest issues. And to the point of AR6 and actually AR4A and N1 actually completely do this, completely do it. And then AR5 and AR6 do, but we're going to need to verify a couple things when we actually get into some decision making, probably more in schematic design, but they're not programmatic concerns. They're more like technical concerns relative to like HVAC and stuff like that. So that's the first row really to compare. The row above that is just telling you some factual data about like how to further clarify each of the options in terms of words. And then going down below the MSBA statement of interest one, there's the program gained line. And what we're trying to do there is to say from if you do nothing concept, like the 10-year plan, do nothing, what we're trying to identify is what you gain with each incremental step along the way for each of these options. And so again, you can kind of see the first two, you don't really gain anything. The third one, you're starting to gain the renovated science rooms. And then as you go further to the right, you're getting more and more gains in value add. And that's the thing that Jeff really wants this committee and the district to focus in on, is understanding what the value is between these options, because at some base level, it's always going to be about cost. But to the degree that there's an option or two that are relatively in the same cost range, you want to be able to understand and talk to your constituent voters about the difference between those and what the value is between the decision points. And so that's what we're trying to do there, is tell you what the program gained is. And then we have a couple more columns or rows there that talk about the pros and the cons. And I suspect that as the two firms dive into this a little bit more, those cells are going to get filled in a little bit more, and they may get filled in as a byproduct of working with the principals and the superintendent on identifying how the program actually gets unfolded into each of these. So like I said a minute ago, we're going to have to do a process of editing the educational program. And so as we do that, we may realize that a couple of these have different pros and cons that aren't listed here yet that will come out of that process over the next iterations. And then finally, to round it out at the bottom is just the rough square footage numbers that are being shown there. And you can see that it's really just kind of for comparison purposes to show you how much more building you're getting really in the AR options and the new option. And that's not hugely critical to the conversation, other than the fact that all the cost estimates and models are based on square footage at the moment. There's no other real indicators or factors pushing into those. And so where we've landed on that is really kind of, again, the culmination of all the space summary work, how big each of these options are, and then we go to the estimates, and that's kind of what's driving those. So from the, yeah,
Chris,
go ahead.
if I could jump in just real quick and just add. So, sort of the point of this exercise is twofold. The first is to allow, you as a committee to see some analysis and really get a better handle on, the differences between the options, what you gain or lose with each option. And then secondly is to be able to eventually communicate all of that back to the voters such that they understand and can see the value in hopefully in the option that you choose and what is gained from it. As Chris noted, the conversation with the MSBA has really sort of started to shape some of this in a way that was somewhat expected, in that because of the way they operate with the SOIs, they basically look at that as your reason for being in the program. So if you deliver a preferred option that doesn't solve the problems that you identified in that SOI, then you're not sort of meeting the spirit of the invitation into their program. So, with that said, as we start to evaluate these options, it's increasingly more unlikely that they would participate in any of the renovation options, since none of those really address some square footage issues, overcrowding, as it was put, and only the R3 does it begin to address some of the other issues that were raised in the SOI, like the science and STEAM programs. So that just gives you sort of a concept, and then we tried to break it down a little bit further about, obviously, as you go from left to right, there's going to be cost differences, and they're going to go, for the most part, up from left to right. But you start to see, I guess with the exception of AR4A, you start to see, what the value is of that. So yes, AR4A is going to be more expensive than AR5, but you start to see the increase in, new square footage and new program space, et cetera. So you really understand the value of the added dollars, not just, well, that one's more expensive. And it's often challenging, but trying to change the conversation away from just how much is it going to cost to what are we getting out of it? What does the school benefit? How will the school benefit from this expenditure? Because ultimately, if people can't see past the price tag, then they're unlikely to support it. So it's really about identifying those key program additions that will allow for sort of an evolution in the ed program and the way you operate.
Mike, can I just ask a question?
Yep, of course.
So basically, the R1 through 3 are not going to get any MSBA participation. So just so the group understands that, we could look at those. Those are good numbers for budget wise. However, more than likely we're going to be picking up that tab on our own.
So, and then as we start to refine the cost numbers, it'll probably be a little bit clearer, and it still won't be sort of concrete numbers, but it'll be clearer as to the difference between a project that the town pursues on its own, um, with either the base or the R1 versus, R2 and R3, compared to the ARs, and the N is in there just for the MSBA's purposes, but you'll get a better sense of the renovations options completely on the Millis dime versus an ad reno option with MSBA partial participation.
Right, which goes to the value add portion of the conversation to, A, what it's going to do for the program, and B, we're going to get the boost because we will spend money. However, we're going to get added value because of
Right.
the
Exactly.
And can I
Exactly.
just add one question? Rich, you just mentioned 1, 2, and 3. So, Mike, is that definitive that R3 definitely will not get any participation?
The MSBA doesn't really do anything definitively until something is put in front of them. So, I can't say it's definitive. I can tell you that based on our conversations and based on sort of the interpretation, shall we say, of
Yep.
of what they're saying, that would be the way I would approach this for you guys is I wouldn't expect that if you chose R3 even that you're going to get them to participate based off of how the statement of interest was written and based upon, their firmness about really reinforcing that document as the purpose for this project.
And I spoke to Jeff this afternoon, and what Jeff said was exactly what Mike said, is that when you look at what we went to the MSBA was, we said we need more space. R3 doesn't add more space.
Right.
So basically he, his thought process is, and he, like Mike said, there's no definitive answer from the MSBA, but we added no space. We said we needed space, therefore they're not going to support it.
So Mike, just to follow up on Ellen,
Yep.
just to be clear, on R1, 2, and 3, in all likelihood, we would get no participation.
Correct.
Okay.
So if we're moving left to right, this is sort of the dividing line, right in the middle. Everything to the left is probably, let's say high 90% certainty that you're not going to get any MSBA participation, but the ones to the right would.
And if you go and you start to look at the numbers, the numbers over there, to the right, if we get some MSBA participation, is going to make those much more attractive, because on the left-hand side, we foot in the whole bill. On the right-hand side, we'll get participation from the state. So that's kind of the conversation that we need to start having, is that we're going to get more bang for our buck. We have to do something to the school. We can get more bang for the buck on the options to the right-hand side, and we just have to define the one that works best for the district.
Yeah, I mean, the AR5 and AR6 options, let's say that they're, 75 or 80% more expensive than an R3 or an R2. But you're going to be paying, the town's going to be paying, say, 60% of it as opposed to 100% of it. So, when that all shakes out, they're probably a lot closer than people would think in terms of cost to Millis.
I think this is pretty complicated, but
It is.
I think it's really important for people to see that we've gone from the very basic R1 on up to the N1 and looked at all of the implications. And I think that is important for them to see.
Yeah. And I mean, this isn't necessarily part of this conversation, but it's somewhat informed by it. One of the things that I wanted to talk about with you all tonight is, given where we are with everything and the need to really drill down into some of this stuff, We don't think that you're ready to make a choice come December. So we're going to recommend, it's entirely up to you, but we recommend that we push out the schedule additional 2 months, such that we would do a February submission of PSR instead of December. What that would do is that would allow us a little bit more time to have some. We have community forums on the schedule, and start to pull in some of that feedback, which we'll talk about also tonight. But also allow the design team and Vertex to start to delve into this with more detail with Bob and the principals, and really start to look at and backing into an ed program that would support a project that you guys think the town will support. I mean, the long and the short of it, I'm not going to speak for you guys, but it would seem to me that based on what I've heard, that between the town's cost consciousness and the balancing that with the programmatic needs, the AR5 and the AR6 options seem to rise to the top. Obviously, we've got some more investigation to do to be able to shake that out, and you all will have your own opinions. But in terms of balancing initial cost with the reimbursement and with the added program, those seem to take on sort of a nice balance between sort of the different pushes and pulls of cost and program.
And one other thing with that is that when I talked to Jeff earlier, the point that he brought up that he wanted us to mention is that we want to make sure that it doesn't seem like we're trying to jam it in at the end. Because
Right.
basically we're going to have a bunch of information that we'll go through, and we want to make sure everyone has time to process it. We want to make sure that the public is aware of it. Could we do it in December? Sure. We could go ahead and close the book. For us, that would be the easiest thing to do, is go pick something, shut the door, and then, we just have to wait until the vote happened, and there you go. But I think we need to do the hard work of digging into it deeper and making sure that Bob and the principals are fully aware of what they're getting, and that we get the right fit for Millis, and we get more information out to the folks in the town. So this doesn't seem like we just, did the easy thing, picked one and shut the door. So that's
And just so we're clear, the recommendation that we're making doesn't impact the town vote. We still would be able to come with the same schedule in terms of a funding vote in the fall of next year. That wouldn't impact it. So you don't really lose much by taking a little bit more time here to be thoughtful about this, and really, try to make the best informed decision. And obviously, the community forums have been helpful, but we still have a lot of people to reach if we're to get to a successful vote. Now, that said, the successful vote is almost a year away, so there's plenty of time to build that up. But getting that feedback before you decide on a preferred option, I think, is critical. So we're proposing to keep the same community forums we have currently, which are the 21st and December 3rd. And then we would slide back the next SBC meeting probably till December 11th, and then sort of gear back up and figure out where we stand after all that community feedback. And then ultimately, work with over that additional time. Chris and I and Jeff will work with Bob and Anna and Patrick on the ed plan, to sort of try to dial that in a little bit better, such that come end of January, we're able to submit we're able to vote on and submit a preferred schematic.
Okay, can I ask one quick question?
Of course.
So if we, I just want to sum this up a little bit in my own head.
Yeah.
So R1, 2, and 3, although they're on here, that's nice. They don't seem like they're viable. So let's bump over to AR4, the 4 to the right.
Yeah.
Am I correct in saying that AR4A is the same cost as a new building?
No, I don't believe so. Let me see. I think I have it handy in the last community forum.
AR4A, we said was 147 at the top. N1, we said is 162 at the top.
Yeah.
There it is.
Okay, thank you.
And those are initial estimates, Ellen, so.
Yeah.
And their ranges too, obviously, as you make more decisions, it informs, each project differently. But it gives you basically the long and the short of it is if you made the same decisions on each of those projects, that the new building is likely $15 million higher than 4A would be.
Got it. Thank you.
Well, and the reality is R1 is actually more expensive because we get no participation.
Right.
So
Right.
that makes no sense. I mean, I don't know what the right time to talk about it is, Rich, but after November 5th, these numbers, if we sit down with people on the 21st of March or November and say, okay, we're still thinking of $100 million, I think we're making a huge strategic mistake. I mean, I don't know what, I mean, 64% no.
Oh,
On
no,
the,
I mean, so no, there's a lot of advantages of pushing it off to February.
no, I'm not suggesting that. It's not
Yeah.
pushing off. I think there's no reason to keep it to December. There's no way that's going to get approved.
Mhm.
But I don't think we can sit down with the citizens of this town. And again, if I'm ahead of myself, that's because I'm getting anxious because the days dwindle down to the precious few. If we tried to deliver what we did on the last one to them again, I think that's a huge mistake because a lot has changed since October 30th.
Yeah.
Well, my thought is on this is that I think we need to go for the brass ring. I think we should pick our best option. We should present it to the town folks and explain the reasons why, and they're gonna have to make a decision. I mean, there's nothing we can do other than to explain it properly and make the best choice that we can to get this thing pushed through. No magic wand's gonna come and, give us a whole bunch of money and say it's all gonna be good. I think it's a decision we're gonna have to make. And I think to your point is, with the town vote for the override, we go through town meeting, maybe there's some time, we go through the holidays that, people are, think about it. And we still have till the fall. I mean, I think a little bit of time might,
Jim, I agree with you 100%. But regardless, do you even think a year? We're talking a year.
Mhm.
Jim, do you think 2 years will make a difference?
This on the record?
Yes,
Yes, it's very
No.
recorded.
I don't either.
Not given the current scenario.
I
Right.
agree with you.
And that's what I'm saying is I think it really doesn't matter what we do. I think we should make our best choice. We're gonna put it forwards and we're gonna go. I mean, the other option is for us to pull out of the program and not do anything, which at this point in time is just silly. Then we're gonna foot the bill for the whole thing ourselves. I
So,
would rather
yeah,
go
I
for the
mean,
breast.
that's to Rich's point. You basically have those two options. You can decide as a committee with the best feedback that you can get from the community to select what you think is the best option, and then proceed with that till you get to a funding vote, and then it either passes or it fails. The other alternative is to shut the whole thing down, as Rich noted.
And if we go for it and it fails, then we can go back into the MSBA and try to get a the Band-Aid approach, and we have to apply, and then we have to get accepted, and they will do things like a roof, you know, so they'll help out the town with a roof. It's not gonna be the same thing. You were gonna get a Band-Aid. So
So-
that's
They won't tell you this outright, but the I'd say the rule of thumb would be about 4 to 5 years before you'd have a shot at getting accepted back into their
Yeah,
program.
I was gonna say, this is a decade.
Yeah.
Give or take a nickel. I mean, at some point, Rich, I agree. I mean, our building committee is trying to fashion a recommendation based upon what the elected officials tell us they want to do, as well as the school department. And for us to say, there's no do nothing. I mean, I wish we'd just stop saying that. If we don't go into this program, we have $50 million worth of stopgap efforts we have to make over 10 years. And none of that is guaranteed, because we have to go to the town each time for whatever it is, 2 million for a roof, they have to approve it. And I'm not saying this is an easy decision, but at this point, I don't feel comfortable in being left out here hanging to dry, so to speak. I mean, from my point of view, the town has told us resoundingly that there is a concern about the tax rate. So we need to reinforce the overwhelming need from an education point of view that we have to do this, because the only way for this district to be successful is to fix the high school, middle school, or there is no or. I mean, if we're going to stand here as a school district, I agree with you, Rich. It's irresponsible for us to say we're going to just leave this building decay. It's just irresponsible. But the real question we're facing is, how much is the town willing to pay? Forget how much the MSBA is going to do. Is the town willing to pay 20, 30? I mean, even with MSBA participation, we're talking about $60 to $90 million.
Correct.
Does anybody on this call think today the town is willing to spend that kind of money?
No, can I go back one thing? You guys, Mike and Rich, you both said, if I don't agree with pulling out, I think that's maybe cowardly. But if it doesn't pass, then you said we go back to the MSBA, maybe we need a new roof. I was always under the impression that if we did it piecemeal, that we don't get a nickel. If it doesn't pass, are we in better shape to go back to the MSBA, and will they participate?
No, like I said, like your shot of getting back into the MSBA
No,
program. They won't tell you, no, you're out. You can apply next year.
Mike, there's a different program, Jeff said. So there's a
The
different
ARP program is a
right.
different program. Yeah.
Right.
So you
What
could
is it?
potentially apply for an ARP is an accelerated repair program
Okay,
designed to address things like roofs, boilers,
okay.
windows.
How does that work?
It's just very similar. You apply, you make your case for why you need the support of the state, and they have to invite you back in. And again, you're competing with many other municipalities throughout the Commonwealth.
Okay, but is it possible to get participation for a new roof?
But here's the thing. If we go for the new roof, we've lost. So it's like, just give up.
No,
So-
I don't mean now. I mean, we play this out the way we're
Correct.
going.
So
If it fails at the vote, is it possible to go back and get participation for a new roof? Listen, MSBA, whatever, we tried.
it is, you can absolutely, if you fail and you basically, as with a failed vote, you basically withdraw from the MSBA program.
Yep.
Next, follow the April following that, you would basically then reapply with a new statement of interest. And that could be, similar to the one you have done now, but, or it could be for an ARP project, which means, a roof, window, boiler approach.
Okay, well,
That's not.
I like that.
Let me
I
finish.
feel lucky.
Let me finish. The thing is, though, I will caution you that you're not just gonna get invited back in right away.
I get it, I get it.
The MSBA has a lot of municipalities to assist, and generally speaking, anyone that fails on their attempts they will, the MSBA won't say this, but they're not gonna get invited back next year. So it's gonna take a few years before,
Okay.
regardless of it, whether it's ARP or the core program, it's highly likely that it's gonna take you 4 or 5 years to get back in for either one.
Okay.
Right, so the thing is we should go for the gold ring, and if we fail, then our fallback is we have the fallback if we could go and try to do this, so that's, I think we should go for it, and we're gonna have to just tell people why and explain the reasoning and hope that people see the value of what we're trying to do.
There are plenty of examples of I don't know about, well, maybe not plenty, but there are examples of towns who have had a failed vote and were invited back. If you look at them historically, it's usually been about a 5-year period. I think on one of the slides, my cost slides, where I showed you Agawam, and it took them about 5 years to get back into the program.
Well, that town Medfield also failed, the
Yes.
people that live in there voted it
Thanks
down,
for,
right, Mike?
thanks for twisting
Right,
that,
Mike?
Yeah,
dagger.
still not there.
Hey,
They have
Mike,
not.
Mike,
Right.
can I make a comment? real
Yeah, go
quick?
ahead, Chris.
I also think it's valuable in light of this discussion to rethink about or remember that the money that's funding this feasibility study and schematic design right now was a town meeting vote that told you they wanted you to deliver them a project to consider by spending their money to do it. And so I think that you do still, even though it's true that they said we don't want to spend money on an override for operations, they did also previously tell you to do the work to deliver a project. So I think you've got that behind you too, to bolster the fact that you're doing your job based on what you were commissioned to do. And that's legitimate too, in the same sense that it is a very resounding situation of what they've also voted for most recently. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah,
It
but they
should
didn't
also-
vote an override for that. Nobody
I
had to pay
think-
more taxes because of that.
Right. I think, I mean, there was a bunch of stuff on the override that, there was the multiple times that it went in. And I think, what the hope is here is that we're presenting something that's completely different. We're not presenting something, we're going to get something when we're done. With the override, I know they would have gotten the teachers back, and that would have been great. But on this one, we'll have something physical that when we're done, we're going to spend, $20 and we're going to walk away with a steak. So, that might be something that would help to, change people's mind.
I don't disagree with you, and I don't think we can just abandon this. I agree with that as well.
Right.
I think we need to focus this conversation a bit more directly. And frankly, when you look at the presentation that we did the last time, let's not do that again, because there's no way that's going to convince anybody of anything. We don't need to tell them every single thing we've done, everything we've considered. We need to say, look, we got to go back to basics. The building needs help. We need to emphasize that. We got to educate our kids. The building needs help. We can either do it ourselves, and I don't want to hear the do nothing ever again, because we're going to do something, and it's going to cost us X dollars to do it. But if we spend, frankly, a little bit more when you really look at it, us, the taxpayers of Millis, with the state's participation, we can have a much better solution for the students. But we have to listen to people in the short run who are still all excited or agitated or whatever it is about the failure of the override. I mean, that was not a trivial thing. It was overwhelmingly defeated by the broadest cross-section of voters you're ever going to get.
Yeah,
And the school told us
national
they wanted that
election.
more than the building.
Yeah.
I will say that there were a lot of people who thought that getting state funding on this project was really important. And that's what the chart that you just showed comes down to.
Yep.
Everything on the left is no money from the state. Everything on the right means money. And people don't want to walk away and leave that on the table.
Well, people want to spend $50 million of their own money.
No, but they
That's
know
right.
they're going to have to do something, and they want something that's more than a 10-year program.
Yeah, the real question is, when will the town be ready for it?
Well, I agree with that.
may not be now. Like that's I think what you're starting to realize, and that's the challenge that you have as a committee is,
Yeah.
you know, obviously wasn't that long ago you went through quite the capital investment with all of your building projects. So it's no surprise that there's a little fatigue starting to hit at this point.
Listen, in my book, I agree with Jim. The further you kick this out, the more you get this bad taste out of people's mouths, the better. And the message has to be on point. It has to talk that we have to, when you talk about doing nothing, this 10-year, I know you don't like hearing about it, but that's what there is no such thing as doing nothing. That's going to cost more. Doing
Yep.
nothing is going to cost more.
Well, and that's why we brought that up, is to show
Right.
that, you know, and but to Jim's point is that, you know, I think in on our, you know, the future presentations, you know, getting in, that's why Mike and the and Tape want to try to hone in. We've got to get to the point
Yeah.
where we're getting to the point of getting,
Right.
you know, down to a few options. And these are the options we picked.
Yeah.
These are the reasons why. You know, and that's the thing is that we set up the background so people understood how we made the decision. Now we want to try to focus in on ones that we're getting close on, and then we get to the point we pick one, and then we can go forwards with that. Then we can start, you know, gaining the momentum to, you know, get people to buy into it.
And
I-
then you also talk about getting a school that will last another 50 years.
Correct.
I have three quick questions, please. First, do the costs on the chart reflect modulars if we need them?
Yeah.
For varying amounts of times and quantities depending on the option.
Okay, and are the costs from the new estimates or are these?
Yep.
They're from the new estimates?
Yep.
Okay,
Which we're meeting next week to reconcile the two between our estimators and Chris's. So that's why we're trying to get down to even more refinement of numbers for the next community forum.
perfect. So we can expect to have that chart, the one we've been looking at, for next week?
Updated, yep.
Perfect. Okay.
Let me ask a quick question just to get it clear in my head. We originally started this conversation by talking about stretching the schedule out a couple of months. If we do that, when does that get us to a vote?
Same time.
So
fall.
that would still be the fall of next year. So you would have a special town meeting, or I guess you guys do November.
Regular
meeting,
town meeting in the
right?
fall, you don't need
So
a special.
your fall town meeting and then subsequently you would need a ballot vote.
Yeah, so it doesn't really change anything as far as
It-
the vote goes.
Right.
It doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I
If-
see.
If we went beyond that, it would. So I don't, that's why we're not sort of pushing anything more than that is, you know, the MSBA board runs on like 2-month cycles. So this would be 1-2-month cycle, but anything more than that, and it would be a challenge to get everything completed ahead of the fall town meeting, as well as there still is a limit. We can get extensions for the feasibility study.
Well,
So
that's not going to happen. So we don't have to
exactly.
talk
I don't think
Yeah.
that's necessary.
Not doing that.
I think you know, taking a little bit more time at this stage, getting the PSR, you know, completed, communicating as much as possible with the public, and then looking at fall town meeting for a vote.
Yeah, I see no downside to doing that.
Does anybody disagree or?
No, I agree with John. I mean, this is what we got to do. I'm just trying to discuss the steps along the trail.
Yep.
And we have to recalibrate where we are. That doesn't mean we take it 3 years, but I think if we're going to communicate, I mean, I know I'm jumping to another agenda item, but you know, there was a lovely,
Sorry, we kind of mixed them together anyway.
there was a lovely recap of the meeting we had on October 30th where 8 people showed up. I mean, we cannot get this thing through with that kind of. Now, I don't know why. Why do people don't want to know? I have no idea.
We had
And-
31, Jim.
well, whatever it was, I mean, 31 out of,
Not an overwhelming, but.
yeah,
when
but
we did-
6,000 people showed up the next day.
I know.
Told you they don't want you to spend their money unless you convince them that it's really compelling. So I don't believe, personally, I do not believe that we should be delivering the same kind of presentation. Frankly, I don't think we should do one on November 21st, to tell you the truth. It's
I
too
don't either.
close. It's right after the town meeting.
I
People are
agree.
exhausted. Now, it
I
can be
said
pushed
that
out a
about
week
the
or two.
last one. I've said that about the last one. I said it's too close. And it's, you say, why don't people care? They don't care because they don't, why don't they come and learn? Because they're overwhelmed. They don't want, it's too much too soon. And now you have another one in a little bit that's right on everybody's got the same taste in their mouth.
So but the way I would look at it is the first one was our trial. So we found out things that we need to do better. And the second one we'll do, and we'll get a little better at that one. And if we have another, say we have 16 people that show up this time, then we've got more people. I think that, and if we go over the longer period, I would say that the word will start to get out more. And do I disagree? I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, with all the stuff that went on with the national vote and with the town vote, I mean, there's a lot of angst out there all around.
There is.
So, but I don't think it's a downside to put information out. If people are going to say, we could hand them ice creams and they'll tell us 10 reasons why they don't like it. And so, us
True.
getting out the message, it helps us to get better at presenting, and it gets the information out to more people. So I don't see a downside to it.
To Jim's point, though, we fully agree that we've been talking about ways to tweak the presentation to make it at least a little more succinct. There's a lot of information there that really we don't need to keep rehashing on how we got here from way back in the spring. So we are talking about how we're going to reconfigure that. But in terms of the 21st, I mean, it is currently being communicated that, it's going to be held virtually. So if we're going to reverse course on that, we'll need to know that tonight.
Yeah, I think we just do it. And, to your point, Jim, I do understand, but I think, it's virtual. People can tune in if they want. If they don't have to. The way we've got it set up is that the questions will be forwarded and read, because we did a trial run on it. So, and other questions that, we want to try to answer later, we can set aside and go back to those. So, I think it's just another step in the process is my mind.
Rich,
Well,
when we
I'd be
did
on
that,
record that I am opposed to that. If we're
Okay,
going to make
fair.
a motion, I don't think that's a good idea.
Fair enough.
what are you opposed to, Jim?
I think trying to do something on the 21st right now is a bad idea. I would push it off to the first week in December, and maybe there's another one already scheduled.
There
And
is.
more importantly,
There is.
what is it we're going to tell them? And, I think we start with, again, okay, we started on this because this building is in real trouble. It's on there. It's on one of the slides. But we need to spend more time on it, maybe a little bit more. And this and this and this has to happen. So we as a community are going to have to address this. And one of the ways to do it is to review the ed plan. I know we all know this, but we're not the target here. It's the people who are not paying attention, who are nevertheless going to vote, is the target. Now maybe I'm ranting and raving here a little bit. I'm sorry, and then when we come to what are the options, we've discussed renovation. Those are not fiscally responsible because the state will not participate. So what we want to do is come up with a renovation and perhaps an addition that will maximize the value, as Rich said, because getting the maximum participation from the state is important. It's still going to cost the taxpayers $80 million.
If you say that the state will not participate in a renovation, and then this thing fails, and then we come back in 3 or 4 years and we get them to participate in a renovation, somebody's going to look foolish.
No, we have to be clear about that because
Yes, you
they're not
do.
the same thing.
Okay,
A renovation as part of the core program is not the same as an ARP.
Okay,
ERP is intended to address urgent or emergent um facility problems.
Band-Aid.
Yeah, pretty
right.
much.
Well, we can tell people that if we go the other route, we
Yep.
may be able to get some Band-Aid aid. That's a
There's
perfect
no
term.
reason to hide it, but you have to be clear about it so you don't, to Ellen's point, people will say, well, you told me this back then and this isn't what the case is anymore and blah blah blah.
I
You
know,
have
but
to
it's
be-
so nuanced.
it is,
Nobody
unfortunately,
is
but we
gonna,
can't avoid that.
I can see the headlines on Facebook now.
Oh yeah, but quite honestly, it doesn't matter how clear you are. People put out stuff on Facebook that
You're right.
because nobody takes the time to learn or
I
to do
know.
any research. So
I
you
know.
can't. I mean, you kind of you can't avoid that.
So the question is, to Jim's point, so, I'm for going ahead with it. Jim's against. Diane, what is your thought?
I know we have put the dates out there, but we can put stuff out and say we're still working on getting more and better information, so come back December 3rd. I think that makes more sense.
John, what do you think?
I do.
Sorry, John Larkin, sorry. I'm
Well-
gonna go by eldest first, sorry, John.
I think putting it off a bit would help. I'm not an advertising expert, but somehow we have to educate the public. And it may not be through these forums. It has to be online on the website somehow. I'm not an expert. But somehow they have to be convinced and shown that we can spend 50 million, I'm just throwing some numbers. We can spend $50 million of town money and get this project. Or we can spend $50 million of town money and get $100 million project. With the state giving us the other 50. Nobody seems to understand that. I'm not sure
Because we
why.
have to say it just the way you just said it.
Exactly.
Because that was pretty good.
John, what do you think, John McDonough?
I'd go for it. I'm a big believer of practice makes perfect. The more we hammer it, the more people will get it and understand. If we're
Alright, so
looking to hit a
Todd-
home run, at first bat, we're not going to. That's fact.
And Ellen, you're against,
Yeah, I would pull it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't come back until the first of the year. Everybody's happy with the holidays. It's all over, the angst, Thanksgiving, Christmas. People get anxious over the holidays, as wonderful as they are. I would put it off till the first of 2025.
well, we can't do that. We don't have enough time to put it off that far, but,
Okay.
Bob, what is your thought?
I mean, we have been advertising. I don't know, if that sends a message to people, will they schedule something and then they pull it back? What's going on here? It's virtual, so, easy to have and easy to cancel.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I agree with Bob on that is that my concern is that, would it be showing weakness? You know what I mean? Is that we put it out and then, somebody squawked on Facebook and, we decided to pull it because, you know what I mean? And that's just a thought, is that, it's just something to consider.
Rich,
Well,
I
I can
think
tell
that-
you, I didn't bring it up because I saw it on Facebook, that's for sure.
Okay,
Go
I
ahead.
think that if we put something on there that says, we've gotten new information, we want to make sure that we can present it so that you can understand it and see the benefits and blah, blah, blah. There's a way of putting it out there so they understand that we're doing better stuff. That's all.
Okay, so if we did that, when would the next date be? Which we had one scheduled for, next
Yeah,
week.
December
December-
3rd is
December 3rd.
the next one.
Okay, I mean, that's fine with me if we wanted to, I think we're 50-50. So if the group would agree that we bump it to December 3rd, Vertex is gonna get more information for us. You'll get all that stuff together and we'll be in a better spot, Mike.
Of course, yep.
Well, it's as important as to when we're gonna do it, as to what are we gonna say? And, again,
Well, with that, and I'll
What we
touch on-
said before was fine, but it's not moving the ball forward.
No.
It's too much stuff.
Yeah, so if I think on that, Mike, we could have, we have our working group, so I think maybe what we do is maybe Vertex gets the presentation together. We review it as the working group, you know, and if other people want to join the working group just for the presentation purposes, we could say, take a look at it. I mean, that'd be a good use of time.
As long as the working group doesn't exceed a quorum, and then we have to post a meeting and make it public.
Okay.
Quorum of the committee or quorum of voting members?
Quorum of voting members.
I thought,
So we'd be able to add what? How many people to that? I can't remember. What do we need, Kim, for a quorum? 4?
I'm trying to think. So there's 5? No,
There's 7 members, 7 voting members of the school building committee.
so
Right,
4.
4, yeah. So right now it's me, Diane, and
Denise has been,
yeah, Denise,
she
yeah.
hasn't made the last couple of meetings, but she's been in the working group meetings.
Well, anyhow, we could figure that out. So, all right, so let's make a vote on it. I make a motion that we push the meeting off till December 3rd.
The
Second,
community
Mark?
forum, just to be clear for the
Right, community forum,
recorded
yeah,
record.
yeah. And so I'll poll the group. Diane,
yes,
Jim,
yes.
John Larkin,
Yes,
and John McDonough.
No,
Okay, and I think I will go as a no, but majority wins, and we will push it off to the December 3rd.
Bob
Terms-
Mulaney-
when
Bob
was-
Mulaney, do you have any issues with hosting on that date?
No, we can actually just change the link. We can just change the time of the meeting. The links will all still work.
Okay,
So we just have to, update the flyer, but we can keep the banner, and we'll just have a December 3rd date. But everything else can stay the same.
Do we have a thing on there that says if you want to submit questions, do so now?
no,
No,
Well,
in terms of.
we don't have room for all that.
but I mean, if you're asking about, we want dialogue. If you have questions, please forward them to Diane Germain.
Well, we have a project email
Website.
address and the project website, which also has a link to the project email for questions.
It's just to try and shake out rather than just getting blindsided when.
Oh, I'm all for you, Jim. I completely agree with you. Unfortunately,
Okay,
we don't often get that.
And we
Um,
don't get big attendance. The last virtual one we did, we had 30 to 40 people. Not much different from the one couple of weeks ago.
well, I mean, we have to ultimately go for 300 people. I mean, I know it's unrealistic, but I mean,
We didn't get it with Clyde Brown.
well, we got pretty good turnout for senior center, and look where that ended up.
Yeah, maybe that's the kiss of death.
Well, we had hundreds of people overall. and-
for a community forum.
Well, we had 4 of them. And they
And
were
you got
live,
hundreds?
and we went out, anyway. It's not the yellow brick road.
Yeah.
It didn't lead to the Wizard of Oz, that's for sure.
No, but I mean, ultimately, let's be honest. Like, if these things fail, there's a reason why, and you'd rather hear it as soon as possible. So, either A, you can address it, or B, you know that something like that needs to wait a few years until maybe the financial picture is a little different. But ultimately, whether it's good or bad, you want that feedback. I mean, that's really what you need in order to make a decision. And, if it's clear that the town won't support it, then at least you know that. But if it's a coin flip, if it's a 50-50, or if it's a 60-40 even, that becomes a little bit more challenging on how you decide to proceed.
Bob, are you gonna say something?
Yeah, I just had a question. Have you guys ever done like a video just showing the building and talking about why we need it and
No,
putting that out on YouTube and you know, people can watch that.
Bob,
And
we
it
did
can be
that with
done.
the, Bob, they did that with the senior center.
Yep.
Oh, another
And-
failed.
And yeah, and yes,
But I'll tell you what,
But I-
Ellen, go back to Clyde Brown. We did the buckets collecting rain. We showed the rain coming
do
down.
you still have that top? Because we could use that.
Well, there's
I
still
heard that was
pieces on,
I heard that was what put it over the edge, that top.
you can still collect small pieces of that on the town field. This part's still there.
Do you have pictures of any of the, not that we've had any rain?
Yeah, we got pictures of rain coming in the windows.
Well, I mean, you should just show the locker rooms. I mean, I went in the locker rooms. I
Oh
mean,
my
I went to,
God,
you know,
no,
yeah, I think Ellen, I don't know if you went to Millis, right?
Yes,
So,
of course.
Yeah, I went to the locker rooms and I was there and I graduated in '83. And I mean, I was just appalled. I mean, it's just,
yeah. Like, I
it looks
don't
like a
think-
third world country in there. It's
I don't
terrible.
think YouTube would allow that to be on a video.
Sensitive content.
Oh my God.
No, I mean, but
You know,
and-
if you could get some pictures together, we can do a montage at the beginning of the next presentation. Show people what's going on.
Well,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
was one of the slides in the last presentation was a couple of pictures. I would have 4 pages of that. I mean, it's time to reignite the feeling that the building
Yeah.
is really in bad shape. And after a period of, working on this for a year and a half, maybe people lost sight of that. I don't know.
Yeah, because I think, the if you drive by it, it looks nice. It's a nice building.
It
It's got
does.
windows. When you drove by the old Clyde Brown with a blue top on the roof, you like, yeah, that building's got problems. Our
I
building,
think they
get
were
that
just
top.
showing off, you know?
So one more question, Bob, is just and this is going back to another quote unquote user group is where are the parents on this? I mean, because that's one of our biggest should be one of our biggest supporters is the parents that the kids are going to go there.
yeah.
I mean, when we went to the forum, I think I saw there was a couple parents there. There was and this is something that in my mind. If my kids were going to go to the school and, I think there should be some excitement on their part. I mean, we're
Yeah.
Jim and.
I mean, they were there
Diane,
for they were there for the, when we were doing the ed plan and.
The community forums in the spring, there was
Yeah,
definitely good
yeah,
turnout.
we had some good turnout for
Yeah.
those with
But
interested
You
parents.
didn't have a lot of people when they did you did your presentation in the library about the override. Again, 30, 35 people, and half of them were school, school committee and, I mean, I think we need to generate the excitement, plain and simple.
That's the thing is you need advocates, right? Like it can't just be this committee. It can't just be the schools. You need people who are willing to step out front and do the hard work that it takes to advocate.
It has to be the school committee.
Yep, the school
No,
committee.
no.
It has to be the school committee.
Nobody there has
They
enough
should definitely be
charisma.
part of it. Absolutely.
What, Diane?
Nobody has enough charisma. I'm sorry. And I'm gonna get shot for saying that.
No,
but
you're
that's
not.
My opinion.
No,
You
you're not.
need some of the moms and dads that got together and did the brochures for the override and tried to rev people up. They're really good at getting interest. But we can't ask them to do that stuff. They need to do it.
That's right.
School committee needs to get them in gear.
Yep.
We're not chartered to advertise or do any of that stuff.
Well, it's not, and the thing is, obviously, we want the project to be a success, but it's, we need help and we need help, boots on the ground. I mean, that's how elections are won. It's when they say grassroots effort. I mean, that's, I was down at the dump when the Clyde Brown was going through. My kids were through the school and I was down there having people flip me off with Wayne standing there waving to them,
Did they throw anything at you? I don't
Oh,
know.
well, they gave me some
Tomatoes.
salutes. I think it was a kind of a
Oh,
funny
yeah.
way,
Yeah,
but
That's how
but
that's how Bostonians say hello.
yeah.
But I mean, I think that's the thing that, you know, we need to express to the parents that, you know, hey, guys, you know, this is something that, you know, your kids are going to benefit from, you know, from this committee. You know, I don't think any of us are going to benefit for it except Bob and the principals. You know, I think we need to get the message out to the parents that, hey, this is something that you should be paying attention to, and this is something that we need your help on. So anyhow, so we've decided, so we're gonna push that summary on the
Rich, can I just
yes,
make an
go ahead.
observation? It's certainly possible to do that because those folks turned up for the select board meeting in June when they were trying to get the question put on a special election.
You're right.
So what happened to them?
I don't know. I don't know. Listen, I'm gonna get yelled at too, Diane, but I've done everything I could to give them a roadmap. And they've done nothing of what I've asked and thought was a good idea. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on, and it's disheartening, but like Diane said, you know, we can put it on, but I'm not gonna go out and hold signs. So somebody has to step up, and I
And
think I'll reach out
honestly,
again and
I think some of the parents who went to that meeting in May, the vitriol that was
received?
evident and what they felt they faced afterwards, you know, it was, people didn't want to step out and take a lead on the override because of, you know, the social media comments and things like that. They were really hurt by that.
My
I believe
advice, get
that.
off of social media for God's sakes. I mean, I'm not kidding.
Yes.
We can't let that drive our lives here.
I agree.
I'm with
Mhm.
I
Jim
mean,
on
it's
that one.
crazy.
I know a couple of you don't like it, but I will tell you, it's the best way to communicate. More bang for the buck.
I agree.
Can't afford
But
ads.
you can't be answering every lame-o excuse. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
We're not doing that.
I know you're not,
I'm not doing that.
but people, I'm sorry, Bob, I'm here in the Neanderthal part of the town, okay, in a little cave. But I don't doubt that people felt intimidated. I don't doubt it. And I feel badly. I mean, it's a crazy environment we're in, but it's their kids.
Right.
Right. And on the other side, I mean, to your point is, you know, I can understand some of the new folks that moved in, they don't have the relationship with the town. I got it. I mean, it's, you know, it's a 100% fair, you know, thought on their part is they moved in and who wants their taxes raised? So, I mean, I got it, but there's a balance between, you know, maintaining the town that you live in. So it's a good thing. And, you know, obviously the people who have more investment in it, where they have kids and they should be even more excited. No one likes to spend money. I got it.
Well,
So-
that's true, but if you look at the results, it was over 60% no vote in all three precincts.
Mhm.
It wasn't just one precinct.
Yep. No,
Now,
I got
it's
it.
a little bit heavier in May toward precinct 3, honestly, if you look at the numbers, but not this time.
Mhm.
Over 60% no in all the precincts.
Yeah, but I think on that one, I think that, like I said, I think there was more to that, the multiple attempts at that, and I think that was the hope is like I said, if we can step away from this and we're going to present this as a whole different thing, we're going to get something when we're done. It's all the spin. I mean, that's the whole thing with all of this stuff is you got to get the right spin on it, and
Yeah.
I think that's what we need to work for as you know, towards as a committee is we got to get the spin, we got to get the excitement, we got to
You're
get the
right.
spin.
Bob,
No, you're
can
right.
you
It
get,
can be turned around. You're right.
Bob, can you get a hold of Denise and see if we can get her to get in touch with the people that did the brochures and
Oh,
things?
sure. Yep.
We need some creative action.
Right.
Yeah.
And with Anna and Patrick, I mean, for you guys, I mean, you guys see the parents too. I mean, we need to you know, obviously this is going to be a long process. So if they start holding up signs outside the school right now, it probably isn't the right time. But,
No,
you know, we can start to get the word out and, you know, are there people who are interested in helping? I mean, that's the thing where, you know, we need, you know, help and, you know, little pieces at a time.
Yeah, some of the things that was successful in Westboro, I know they had more money, weren't as much in the budget, but they had done a lot of building too. Is we did do a video like Bob had where we kind of walked them through the stations, but we also got a lot of we invited a lot of the seniors in to just kind of be in class with our kind of kiddos too. You know, so we can try some creative ideas there too. You know, I think for that. But really trying to get people into the school and see it where the kid like you know, they have to see the kids, you know, in order to feel that way, like they're gonna, you know, get moved by that, you know, to kind of create action. So and try to think creatively around that. You know, I think is
You
good
should
input.
hold your forums in the school under an umbrella where the rain's coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting for it to rain in my office because I said I got to clear everything
Right?
out. You know what I mean? So
Bet
like
we're
we
in
can
a
get
drought.
yeah, we can get video. Yeah, I know. So we can get video, you know, tape of that stuff. You know, we have plenty of kids, plenty of video cameras
I'll
floating around
stand
now. We don't
outside with
have
a hose if that'll work.
yeah, yeah, you know. So we can definitely collect that stuff and do that part on our end for sure.
I think we need at least something for the next meeting, the December 3rd meeting.
Yeah, I think I go
If you
back
can
to
do
the,
something, that would be great.
yeah, I think the, like I said, the, you know, the pictures of the locker room and the boiler room too. I mean, I went in the boiler room and,
Yeah,
you know,
that's yeah. Even though like our old, I know that you know most of the kitchen equipment, but we have like a stove that I don't even know what year that's from. You know what I mean? I just think pictures. I think pictures for this next you know, slide could definitely, you know, be helpful for that to kind of I agree that we got to hammer that home, you know, for that piece. I think as we get closer to the vote, like that's when we're inviting people in and kind of showing them, you know what I mean, and
but we have to
interacting
do
with
the
the kids.
groundwork for that now. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that,
Yeah.
you know, we can't be going to people and say, you know, let's say, you know, after next summer, next fall, and say, oh, we need to get a
late.
you know, group together. We need to,
Too
because
late.
they've been
You're
talking
right.
about a political action committee and this and that and the other thing. And, you know, maybe that stuff's happening and we're just not aware of it. But, you know, we need to do the hard work at the beginning. So when we're ready to get to
You're
the
right.
end, we've got the people to do the work.
When-
And, you know, if you can, you know, get some parents to get, you know, some people together to, you know, this is part of their legacy that they can leave
When
behind.
we were building Clyde Brown, we had a legal situation and we had to do another vote. This is for the people that haven't been dinosaurs like us. We got two people who came forward to volunteer. One was Sharon Egler, she does Community Kangaroo, and the other was Erin Underhill. And they put together brochures because the PBC couldn't do it. And they went out and contacted people and got all kinds of support. They did a wonderful job. And that's probably why we had to pass the authorization a second time, and we did. So,
Well, I happen to know Erin Underhill. And
Yeah,
I'll
me
tap
too.
her on the shoulder and see how she can,
me too.
because I mean, she's obviously very passionate about this, so
Yep. And she has 3 reasons to be passionate
she
about
does.
it.
So
So's her
one
husband,
of
so
one of the things is we're talking about community feedback, community forum, and information sharing to the public. One of the things that we need to just discuss and make sure, you know, we're on the same page here is one of the questions that came up at the last community forum was why don't we regionalize? And you know, that's something that I think, you know, you as a committee need to have a clear message on that. There's a reason why regionalization certainly wouldn't work as part of this MSBA process. Again, the SOI would, you know, completely change. 2, that's a many year process and one in which you would need to at least have one other partner, that's willing to go that route. And I don't think that that's, there's been any talks of that amongst any neighboring towns. So,
And Mike, this was
the
brought up.
point being just Rich, that, it needs to be a clear message that that's not an option at this point.
And Jim went through those exact same things. I know the question came up, and I know the person, it's been made, it was brought up to my attention when I had a planning board meeting last night. It's very clear that cannot happen. They tried to do it in the 80s. It didn't work. To do it, it's a multi-year process. To do that, we'll have to pull out of the program. I mean, it's just basically it's a 100% loss.
It's clear to this group, but that needs to, make clear to that Facebook group that's still spouting that as an option.
I will tell you that Craig has been most deliberate about what we can and can't do. And that's where this belongs, with the select board and the school committee. But there is a group on Facebook that is, not all of them, but some people are lobbying heavy for, let's not do this until we do the
I
regionalization.
know.
Well,
They've
we
been
can't-
told 100 times that it will never work for this.
And the other part of it is that we can't, like you said, Mike, we can't respond to every comment.
No, you
If somebody says something, our statement is, we're going to stay the path. Regionalization is just a distraction. It's another way to try to disrail the train. And if we could do it and we could snap a switch and it could happen and we could have a partner and we could do that, great. That's just it's not realistic and it's not feasible. So, other than reinforcing the comment that, that is not an option at this point in time, I don't want to respond to every single comment.
No, but I think that one is an important one that people understand that it isn't an option.
Right.
And that, there's
We
a
have
handful
responded
of
to it,
reasons
and
why.
we have responded to it, and we will continue to get that same message out.
Great.
Yeah,
Good.
I just want, it's not the building committee's responsibility.
No.
Right?
Correct.
Ellen, know that, and
No,
the school
but-
committee knows that.
It's
We are
correct.
here because, from a strategic point of view, we have a district which happens to coincide with the town, and we're trying to find a way to support the district in its needs to educate the children. If the school committee or the select board or somebody else wants to go to a regional solution, tell us. It's not our job to do that.
Correct.
they
correct.
don't.
Right.
And
I
they're
completely
all-
agree, Jim, that message needs to come from the select board and from the school committee.
Right.
Because that's under their purview, not this SBC's purview.
But to your point, I mean, I thought it was explained reasonably well, but that doesn't mean anybody heard it.
Right.
This gets back to the time frame. And at the end of the day, if we don't do this, then we're back into that other program, the Help Me With the Roof program,
The ARP.
which is another 5 years. I mean, it's time is of the essence as well here, don't you believe? I mean, at this point,
It always
the more
is
we
in this
wait, the
business.
more it costs.
Exactly. There's everything. Time is money in our business, unfortunately, and prices, they never go down. They may slow their rise a little bit, or they may accelerate like they did a few years ago post-COVID. Luckily that's stabilized, but they're still going up at about a 4% annual rate. And that's not going to change. I mean, that's considered to be stable in our business, is about a 4% escalation, 4 to 6%, even in the extreme times. So yes, time is absolutely money. And, the longer you wait to do things, the more it's going to cost. And that was part of the reason I put that in the presentation for the community forum, is that you look at Agawam, who came back 5 years later, and they're looking at an almost 50% increase in the cost of their.
I love the slide. It was too busy.
It is a lot. You're right. It is.
Are we going to go slide by
That's why
slide?
it does require some explanation. But it is important to see, like, you guys are not one of 10 communities. There's, hundreds of projects on that slide. And if you dig enough, and it does require a little bit of digging, you start to see some trends, and you start to see some things that will help inform, your community about where things will be if we don't do it now. in 5 years, if we come back and the MSBA brings you back in, you know, it's not going to be cheaper.
And if you get in the program, it's another 2 years.
At least, yeah. Like I said, I
Oh.
think it's closer to 5, but
No, if they let us back into the program, 5
then
years,
it's 2 years until
then it's 2 years of
Yeah.
study.
Mhm.
So
And
now we're in
Mike,
2030 something.
correct.
Anyway,
Mike, did the MSBA dial back that accelerated program too?
They did, but I think let me check in with Jeff. He knows more about it than I do. I've never done an ARP. Jeff has before.
I
They
think
did last year. They did sort of dial it back, but I don't know
because
if
the
it's
construction costs were going up so much for projects that were already in the core program. I
Right.
thought they'd have enough money for the accelerated program, but
Yeah, I mean, they definitely
Don't go
dialed
to
it back. I think in anticipation also, there's some fairly large projects, and I don't know if it'll ever happen, but like Brockton High, which may be the first billion-dollar school in the state of Massachusetts. But they can't get their act together. They're really struggling. So, you know, when you get some of those big projects that are in the pipeline, it absorbs a lot of the capital that the MSBA has to allocate to other projects. So, you know, that's certainly something to monitor. Um,
All right, so that's good. I think we're Mike, for your end, how did you make out on your points? Are you in good shape, you think?
yeah, so let me just look back at the agenda, make sure I touched everything. We talked about community feedback. We are going to rework the community forum presentation and postpone that till December 3rd. We went through the space summary template comparison, gave you the MSBA update. So, yeah, I think I've touched on everything that was on my agenda for this evening.
Okie dokie. All right, great. So I think then the rest of the school gang, as much as you probably enjoy our company, you can jump off now if you'd like. And thank you for coming.
Thank you all.
All right. And so
Gonna
let's
do
see.
some bills? and
Yep.
minutes, right?
Invoices and minutes, yep.
Yeah, I printed my agenda, which you can't see because it shows up as a white screen, so I'm going to read it. So the next thing would be to review and approve invoices. So the first item on the agenda would be an invoice from the Vertex companies for invoice date of 10/31/24 for the amount of $25,874.50. So I make a motion to approve that.
Second,
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. And this was for work. This was for, part of it was the Fogarty and Associates, which was the estimate. that
Cost
they had.
estimating, yep.
And then the rest was managing the project to date. So the motion's been made and seconded. Diane,
yes.
Jim,
yes,
John McDonough,
Yes.
John, John, it was the other John.
Larkin,
Second.
No, I know, I just can't see him.
there he is.
I thought you went away. John Larkin.
There.
I'm like a bad penny, I'm always.
All
Yeah.
right, and I'm an I too, so it passed unanimously. I thought you disappeared. I couldn't see it on the screen.
Before you do the next one, Rich.
Yeah.
Mike, did we get to see the estimates?
Did who?
Did we get to see the estimates?
Yeah, we're like I said, we're doing reconciliation. You've seen the ones from PM&C,
Right,
the ones from AM Fogarty. Now that we have them, we're going to reconcile and basically align, you know, make sure that both PM&C and AM Fogarty are seeing the project the same way. And, you know, AM Fogarty, PM&C is TAPE's estimator, so they have a little bit more of sort of inside information. So we want to make
Yep.
sure before we distribute those that everybody's working off of the same page.
But we will get that.
But I don't expect there to be drastic differences. The whole purpose of reconciliation is to make sure they're both on the same page. So, you know, some may come down a little, some may go up a little. It should be a small on the grand scheme of things in terms of scale.
okay. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda would be to review and approve the minutes from 10/23/24. So.
Rich, did we only have one invoice?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
there was no invoice from Tepe this month.
Remember,
Okay.
I printed everything the old fashioned way, so I've got it right here. So I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of Wednesday, October 23rd, as written.
Second,
Motion's made and seconded. Diane,
Yes.
Jim?
I abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
Oh, okay. Yep. Sorry, John
Yes.
and John Larkin.
yes.
Okay, great. All right. So let's see. Our next meeting is, when's our next scheduled
So
meeting?
I'm recommending that it was going to be December 4th, but I'm going to recommend that we make it the 11th, just to make sure that we, along with Chris and Tape, have a chance to sort of pull together more detail on the not just the cost estimates, but also the comparison that we started talking about tonight. And given that you've agreed to the February submission instead of December, we thought moving that out 1 week would be more productive.
So basically, we'll have the public forum on the 3rd of December.
Correct.
You'll have more information on the cost estimates at that point in time to present.
Yeah, the cost estimates, like, we're having the reconciliation next week, so certainly, hopefully by the end of next week or maybe right before Thanksgiving, we should be able to distribute that information.
Okay.
But that'll be well ahead of the forum or the SBC.
Okay, and then so so the 11th, December 11th will be our next meeting, and then the only other thing would be for the working group meeting, if Jim, would you be interested in, because it would be Diane, myself, you, and then if we have Denise, that makes 4, so that's a problem. So, well, worst case is we could post it.
When
I mean,
is it?
for if we had a working group meeting.
We haven't scheduled one.
Well, that's why I'm saying that.
Okay.
So on that one, you just have to, how much in advance do you have to post it, Kim, for this? Is it 2 weeks or is it
48 hours.
48
So
hours.
that's-
48 hours, yeah. For
Mike, when our Wednesday meeting, could we have our Wednesday meeting next week? Would you guys be ready to?
You mean a working group?
Well, I want to, like, to Jim's point, if we're going to change the presentation and we're going to add things to it, we should look at it. So can we do?
Oh, I agree. I'm just trying to time that all out. We've got the reconciliation is Tuesday, so we might need a little bit more time than that. I'm wondering if we could either do for a working group. I wonder, would Monday the 25th work, or? Oh, sorry, my computer's freaking out on me a little bit here.
Monday, the 25th, and well, Thanksgiving is when? Come on, get back there.
28th.
I mean, I could do the 25th. That's fine with me. Would 25th work for Jim, for you?
No, I can't make it that day.
Okay, what day can you make it? And I'm not
28.
Um,
Early morning. No.
He'll be the turkey.
Yeah.
I think the 26th looks better for me anyway.
Wait a minute, that's
26th is a Tuesday.
I can do the
Okay.
26th. Yeah, that'll work.
26 is fine. So 26 we'll do the working group.
Yep.
What time, what time is the working group?
Typically 4 o'clock.
4. And so we'll reach out to Bob and to bug in some pictures and stuff to add to that. Kim, so when we do that, if you could send Bob a thing saying that we'd like to get the photos prior to that.
Prior to the working group?
Yeah. If you could just email them to Mike and Eric and Jeff.
Okay.
Mike, do you have the ability to put a banner on the post that we put up? Showing the date of the date change?
Yeah, we'll come up with a new flyer for the thing. Just basically say, new date, something to that effect, you know,
Yeah.
what is formerly 11/21, now will be 12/3.
Yeah,
I'll work with Chris. Chris's team has more graphics capabilities, so I'll work with him to get that done.
I mean, that's next 2 weeks from now, isn't it?
The 3rd is 3 weeks, I believe.
No. I mean, I need to get a notice out to change
Oh.
the date.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, if Bob has already sent it out to his listserv or something like that, he should.
He has,
He can.
and it's on his website.
Yeah.
It's on 2 Facebook sites and
Yep.
it's on the town
Yeah.
website.
So give me, I gotta check in with Chris, but certainly by Friday, I think we should be able to get the banner remade, the flyer remade. But I might be able to get it done tomorrow if Chris can coordinate from his conference.
Okay.
He might be able to have somebody change that, but it's gonna take me a day or so.
I don't think we need to be really elaborate on brand new flyer. I think
No, it
would
just should
work
be new
to put
date.
something on there, new date, and put the date on.
Yeah.
I agree. It shouldn't take much.
Okay,
All right,
and
great.
I'll get it updated and Kim can get the town website updated.
Yeah, yeah, I think they used the image too, so if you could
They
just
do.
send the flyer
do.
to me,
Yep,
Yes.
we'll do.
thanks.
All right. Well, I think we're good. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I think that was a productive conversation. As I know, it's not the easiest thing and not necessarily what everybody would like, but I think I found that to be very productive. So,
Yep.
thank you all.
All right. All right. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right.
Third, fourth.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Everybody.
Oh, it's down here.